What's up, guys? You probably saw in another video of mine I was gonna do a full kind of bio of this Toyota Solara SLE. Kind of give you guys an overview of this car for those that may have never heard of this car. And I figured since I'm doing the oil right now, what better time than to just kind of introduce you guys to the car. So if you haven't seen my other video, go check it out, link in the description. But essentially this is a 2002 Toyota Solara. They made this body style Solara from 1999 to I think approximately 2003, if I'm not mistaken, just depending on where you were at in the world. But this car was manufactured in Canada by Toyota. It has one of the most infamous motors that Toyota has ever made, which is the V6. This V6 is found in the Toyota Solara, the Camry, the Sienna, the Lexus ES300, I think the Coupe Camry, the turbocharged variants. There's several models that this V6 is in. And for the most part, if you keep up with the maintenance, they're quite reliable. This engine actually in my car has about 242,000 miles at the time of this video, which is quite impressive for any car. When you think about a car getting over 200,000 miles, that's impressive. If this thing makes it to 300,000, that's going to be beyond impressive. And if it goes beyond that, I'm going to be just, amazed, frankly, just at the fact that how old this car is and how well the car is held up. But it's a testament to just doing maintenance, which is what we're doing right now. So one thing I kind of wanted to just brag about is this car has been in the South its whole life, in the South in the U.S., I should say. So besides some old leaks, you can kind of see it glistening. Most of the leaks have been tended to. If you look at this, that's from changing the oil. Anybody that has changed oil on this V6, you know my pain. But it's just quite impressive. There's literally no rust on this car all the way back. The rocker panels, not even the exhaust has rust on it. But it's just, that's a perk of it residing in the South, not getting eat up by the road salts and the rust belts. But this car, unfortunately, being a commuter car, it has seen its fair share of road debris, tires, coolers. Just kind of ridiculous amounts of stuff flying up in the road. In fact, looks like we have a piece of road debris of some kind that has gotten into my condenser. That's great. But the whole purpose of this video is just to kind of show you guys a little bit about this car, kind of go over some of the quirky features this thing has, and just kind of give you guys insight into a car you may not know much about. And guys, please bear with me. I'm working on trying to get a handheld tripod, or maybe even a gimbal mount that I can put my phone on as I make these videos. I know it's a little bit twitchy, so just bear with me here. But it's quite amazing that in 2002, this wasn't necessarily a premium car, but we have hood struts. There is no hood prop. It is hood struts, which frankly cars built here in 2022 don't even have that. So it's quite impressive that they thought about adding those way back in 2002 when they built this car. While I did kind of say it's not a premium spec, I should say it is the SLE. But even if you got the base model, at least in the US market, it did come with the hood struts. The other cool feature that I mentioned in my other video is if you look at the roof of this car, you look at the trunk, you look at the quarters, there's no antenna. There is no antenna externally for this car. And it's quite amazing. If I can find a diagram, I may throw that up in the video. If not, I would just encourage you to Google the Toyota Solara antenna. It's quite an impressive kind of a wire setup they have running through the car, and it's supposedly located around the rear window. It's just a real fascinating setup. But the cool thing about it is there's no antenna. Even the modern like shark fin antenna, which we have now, they don't have it. It's just so cool that they've thought about that stuff. And the overall styling, overall, it does have some kind of sporty lines and things like that. And for those of you that may not be aware, 200,000 miles, by the way. For those that may not be aware, this car was actually marketed as a sports car. And I get it's front wheel drive. You know, there's some controversy around, you know, front wheel drive sports cars. But with that being said, they did pack a V6 engine into a two-door chassis. So again, quite impressive. It was a little bit of thinking from Toyota. You know, one could say this is essentially a two-door Camry and, you know, a different body. And that's not an untrue statement. Actually, from my ownership of this vehicle and doing maintenance on it, almost everything Camry related, and I say almost, there's been a few little quirky odds and ends, but I would venture to say 98-99% of the parts on this car are shared from that platform. So it's kind of nice, but anybody familiar with Toyota knows these things are a little bit like Legos. A lot of the cars share the same parts across models, across different platforms. In fact, you know, it's the 4Runner, the FJ, the Tacoma, like those models, you know, they share kind of the same things. Well, they do the same things in their car. But yeah, overall, this has been a really neat car. It's been a pain to maintain in some instances. Like I was mentioning before, if you've ever changed the oil in this V6, you know, it's a sideways tilted back variant of this V6. And to my knowledge, that's how it is in every car. I mean, even in the Camrys, the Lexus, I'm pretty confident on the Siennas it's the same setup, but every car that I've seen with this V6, it's set up exactly the same. And unfortunately, the way they have this oriented, in addition to where they place the oil filter, it makes it incredibly hard to change the oil if you don't have the tool, because the oil filter is actually right under this manifold. I don't know if you can see it through that hole, but the oil filter is right there. You can probably see the rim of it. It's nice and shiny, but it's quite frustrating to change that if you don't have the tool. Now, if you've got this neat little $5 tool, which I have, and a ratchet with a stubby extension, it is beyond easy. You take a paper towel, wipe up the excess oil, and you're on your way. But I will agree with the internet that it is not an ideal placement for the oil filter. Why they did that, I'm not entirely sure. Somebody in the comments will probably enlighten me on that. But with that being said, you know, it's a fairly well-engineered engine. They are known for sludging. However, as the internet has already well documented, the easiest solution to that is to simply routinely change your oil. And when you change the oil, use a high-grade engine oil, such as a synthetic, because it does prevent that. I can confirm that does work because throughout my ownership, I've done 2 timing belts, water pump, thermostat, 2 sets of valve cover gaskets, knock sensors. I've been all up into at least the top end of this motor, and I can confirm there's no sludge. And I credit that to just routinely changing the oil. Every 5,000 miles, the oil in this car gets changed. I try not to go beyond that. One would argue you do 3,000. I would say with synthetics, you can get away with going to 5. You could probably, at this point in 2022, go beyond that, but given the fact that these engines were notorious for sludging up, I don't want to risk it. And frankly, every time I have changed the oil at the 5,000 mile mark, it's still golden. The oil looks brand new, which is frankly impressive. Again, this engine has 242,000, almost 243,000. It's getting ready to hit 243,000 as I'm making this video, and the oil still comes out clean. I mean, that is just unreal. Unreal. I mean, Toyota, you've certainly outdone yourself with that. With all that being said, everybody knows Murphy's Law. Bragging on the car, it's probably going to blow up or do something crazy. All joking aside, though, this has been a really good car. I hope to get many more years and many more miles of ownership. But yeah, that's the exterior. Like I said, the weird quirky thing with the antenna is pretty cool. I'll take you guys into the inside when I get it lowered back down onto the ground. And then I will show you the interior, which honestly for 2002, kind of impressive. I mean, in today's standards, maybe not so much, but at least in 2002 standards, it was pretty impressive. And last but not least, I did not want to overlook this factory strut bar. Factory strut bar that came with the car from factory. Again, this was a more sports-oriented chassis, so they implemented some body stiffening. I mean, overall, this car is quite impressive. But enough with that. Let me get this back on the ground. I'll get you guys in the interior and kind of show you what has held up and what has not in the interior, and just kind of give you an overview of it. Okay, guys, I've got the car back down on the ground, so as promised, we'll give you a quick little tour of the interior of the Toyota Solara. This is the SLE V6 trim. SLE is the top of the line. This one did come with the JBL audio sound system. This was also the car that was equipped with the optional CD changer and cassette deck. So quite revolutionary. But this is the overall interior. If you familiar with late 90s, early 2000 Toyotas, that instrument cluster is pretty common throughout most of the vehicles. Nothing fancy there. They do have the mirror switch controls here. Some Toyotas had them on the door, some had them up here. Just really depends. These vents are carried over from several models around that era. But you know, this leather pleather material has held up quite well through the years. In fact, the dash, and this is a car that, mind you, has been parked outside 98% of its life. So over 20 years of abuse, and the dash is still holding up pretty well. You can see some of the corners of the airbag are crinkling up. Not quite as bad as if you know the old Mitsubishi Eclipses, where they would just, or even the Mustangs, where they would kind of just like warp and peel off the airbag. Not quite there yet. Hopefully it won't, but you can definitely see it's fatiguing a little bit. But overall, this has held up quite well. Again, that leather pleather, not really sure if it's real leather or not. Seats are pretty well cracked. I think back in this time, it was still real leather. I have used Lexol and other products, but unfortunately, it's just, this is, you know, to the point of no return, essentially. And then if we come to the back, leather seats as well. They actually fold down. You can see the levers there. The pass through to the trunk. The trunk is also quite large for the size vehicle. You could actually fit, you know, a couple sets of golf clubs in there if you wanted to. Has a sunroof, which is pretty cool. This was one of the options for this car, again, it being the SLE. You got the garage door opener buttons as well. One of the upgrades I did recently is modern cars have spoiled us, and so CarPlay is quite nice, particularly on a commute. So I've added a touchscreen radio from Sony. So far, I'm a fan. Picked it up at Walmart. It was a good deal at the time. You know, I think Sony, Pioneer, Kenwood, they all make pretty well reputable models of these radios now, so I don't think you can go wrong. You just find one at a reasonable price. But it has been a nice upgrade to the vehicle. In addition to that, I do have in the cigarette lighter, I do have my dash cam. So this is my Rove Anchor dash cam. I did a review of this if you want to check it out on the channel. It's a cheapie Amazon. I paid like $40 for it. I did try to go back and find it the other day. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like they still have it. If they do, they've either rebranded it or they've, you know, maybe upgraded it and changed something. But the cool thing with this camera is it does have a Sony chipset, which I thought was pretty cool. The battery is awful. In the 2 years I've had it, the battery is completely toast. So the moment it unplugs from the USB power, it pretty much shuts off immediately, unfortunately. But enough about that. The other features of the car is it does have the goofy visor where you have to do this like accordion thing that comes out here. That has since broke. This plastic piece has broke too. The headliner has tried to give way on me in a couple places. In fact, the entire back end at one point let go, but I did some spray adhesive and took a card and smoothed it out, and it has held up quite well, actually. So if you have a Solara and the headliner is sagging, that is certainly an option as well. But as far as the interior goes, the only thing that I have changed is the radio and the rear speakers back there on the rear deck lid. Everything else is as it came from the factory, you know, essentially 20 years ago. The other cool thing I thought that they did with this car is, if you're familiar with Porsches, you know, they have the key on the dash. Of course, theirs is on the left side, but it's on the dash nonetheless. I think that's just pretty cool, instead of it being over here on the column as most cars usually have it. It's just kind of a neat You know, again, sporty feel. Like I said before, this was marketed as a sports car when it came out, so it was just a pretty cool option there as well. And then last but not least, this is, you know, 2002, so it has an auto dimming mirror and it still works. That's, I think that's just a testament to Toyota and the products in which they build. I mean, there is, as of now, at the time of this video, there isn't anything in this interior that is not currently working. Sunroof works. In fact, that is the OE interior dome light. So 20 years, 243,000 miles. And it's still rocking. The other thing is it has this digital readout for the air conditioning and heating, which is pretty cool. It shows you here, it'll have the outside temperature. Then over here, it has your vent mode, whether it's defrost or both vents, floor, you know, etc. Just really cool. Not much to it though. I mean, this is a very basic car. I know if you're looking at you know, most car journalists, they'll say, you know, some of the touch points and the hard plastics, they always kind of ding cars that have that. But this is a testament to having hard plastics on your car. It holds up. It works. It's not necessarily luxury. It's not necessarily plush. You know, it's not Alcantara. It's not, you know, these nice fancy touch points. I will say the dash itself has this kind of like padding, and then it's got this like pleather, leather, whatever kind of material. But again, it's held up and it works. You know, at the end of the day, I think that's the main thing, particularly for a daily driver. You just want it to work and hold up. And this is just a testament to Toyota. I will admit that at least in the time of our ownership, and as I mentioned in a previous video, that's, you know, spanned about 15 years now. We've never used Armor All on the dash. In fact, I've always either used water or ironically enough, I've gotten glass cleaner on it. I use a sprayway no ammonia glass cleaner, so when I'm cleaning the windshield, sometimes it gets on the dash and I just simply dust it off. I don't like hose the dash down intentionally. Or I have used grits or griots, however you pronounce the name of the company. I have used their interior cleaner to get some of the more like touch point areas on the doors and things clean. And so while I'm doing that, I have sprayed the dash, which is partly what has helped the dash live as long as it has. But from other Solaras I've seen, they've held up just as well. So I think it's just part of the materials they're built out of. One last quirky feature I can give you is there is another cigarette lighter down here that it's rated for like a kind of like a 110 volt, which I think is pretty cool. This was the era of, you know, for ashtrays in the car still, so it does have that. And then it has this neat little like cubby hole here that honestly isn't much useful. I mean, I think you can put a pen here is how it's designed, and then you can put like maybe your insurance card or something there. I think that was the intent behind it, at least. But yeah, that is my overview of the Toyota Solara. If there's anything on the car that you would specifically like for me to talk about, please leave a comment and I can certainly create a video about it. But overall, the car's been really well. I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the most underrated vehicles Toyota made. And frankly, if you're looking for just a cheap, affordable daily driver, either for yourself or your kid's first car, you know, this is certainly a great contender. I mean, overall, it's just a nice, forgivable car to work on, and they held up quite well. Some keen viewers may notice I have a steering wheel cover on. My one complaint with the interior of this car, especially given its age, is the steering wheel gets sticky. I don't know if it's the material, like it's some kind of fake leather, but as you wear the wheel down just from driving it, the material, as you can see here, it gets worn through, and when you wear through it, on a hot day, it gets very, very, very sticky. And so I got tired of that. And so I got me a cheap wheel cover and, you know, problem solved. So again, nice car. It's got some really, you know, creature comfort features given its age. I think overall it's been a good car. But like I said, if there's anything that I didn't cover in this video and it's something you would like me to cover, leave a comment down below and I'll happily do that. Thanks for watching.